So yeah, the One X GPU pairs up perfectly with the new 2024 OneXplayer Pro 2 powered by the Ryzen 7 8840U. And once we combine these, we've got a really stellar gaming experience. What's going on, everybody? It's ETA Prime back here again. Today we're going to be turning the all-new OneXplayer Pro 2 with that Ryzen 7 8840U into a full-fledged gaming PC. And we're going to be doing it with the One X GPU. Now, I've done a few videos with this. We actually got a hold of it a few months ago. It's a great little eGPU, USB 4, and Oculus. In this video, we're going to get a feel for how well this is going to perform with an eGPU, but before we get into it, I do want to mention that this video is brought to you by Vip-Urcdkey. I've actually been using this site for a couple years now. They do offer Steam keys, Origin, Uplay. They even offer Microsoft applications like Office, but the main reason that I use Vip-Urcdkeys is for their Windows keys. Right now, their Windows 10 Pro OEM key is $19.84, but if you use code ETA at checkout, you can get 25% off. And another great thing about buying from here is they do accept PayPal. As you can see, I've got Windows 10 Pro, but it's not activated. So I'm going to change product key. I'm going to paste it in here, choose next, choose activate, and Windows is now activated. We're ready to go. They'll email your code once your payment is processed, and that's basically it. If you're interested in picking up cheap Windows 10 keys for your new PC builds, I'll leave a link in the description. Unfortunately, the new 2024 OneXplayer Pro doesn't have Oculus, but we do have 40 gig USB 4 up top here, and we can really add some GPU power to this device. Recently on the channel, we took a first look at this Ryzen 8000 series powered handheld. It's got that huge screen, and since then I had a lot of people asking about pairing up their new GPU along with their brand new handheld, so I figured we'd go ahead and make a quick video. As you can see with this handheld, we do get those detachable controllers. It's got an 8.4-inch 2560 by 1600p IPS display here, and this new model is using an AMD Ryzen 8000 series APU. By itself, it really does put down some good performance. It's also backed by 7500 MHz RAM, and we've got a 65.5 watt-hour battery. One of the most impressive things that I've found so far with this device is just battery life in general, and of course it's got one of the biggest batteries in a handheld, but yeah, the power draw on this is much less than I would have expected given how large the handheld is. So we can get some pretty good runtime out of this device when you're on the go, but when you get back to the house, there is a way to really up the performance, and that's going to be with an eGPU. USB 4, 40 gig up top, and what we're going to be using here is the One X GPU. Of course, there are other Thunderbolt 3 and Thunderbolt 4 eGPUs on the market. They will work with USB 4. But with this, what we've got is an AMD Radeon RX 7600 MXT with 8 gigs of VRAM. Adds a ton of extra I/O to the device, plus it's got an M.2 slot in the bottom for more storage, so we can actually up the storage on our handheld when we're in dock mode situations, and it really does help out because a lot of these handhelds just don't have enough storage right out of the box. It also has some adjustable RGB up front, 100 watt PD charging out when we're connected over USB 4, that way we can keep our device nice and charged while we're playing our games using this eGPU. And again, once this is attached, we've got extra I/O. 2 full-size USB 3 ports up front, Ethernet, 2 display ports, 2 HDMI ports. This dock also supports Oculus, and with Oculus you will get better performance out of this GPU, but unfortunately the OneXplayer 2 doesn't have it, so we're going to be utilizing USB 4. Super easy to get this connected. I've got power plugged in from the wall to the eGPU. We've also got HDMI going out to my monitor. And of course, we've got that USB 4 cable that we're going to be plugging into the handheld. We want to turn the eGPU on first, and this also has a turbo button. So once it gets booted up, we can actually activate this. It's going to take the TDP, or TGP rather, because it's a GPU, up to 120 watts, giving us a nice little boost in performance. But once we've got that powered on, we'll just go ahead and plug it into the OneXplayer 2 Pro. Give it a few seconds to initialize, and the driver that came pre-installed with this actually worked with the One X GPU. I didn't have to do any kind of configuration. It's also detected that M.2 drive that I have installed in the eGPU, so we've got a little extra storage there. You can set it up as a secondary drive. And while it's totally possible to use this eGPU with the built-in screen on your handheld, it's really not recommended because it's basically going to cut performance in half. And this is because we need to send that signal back to the built-in screen, and it kind of clogs up that USB 4 connection. Just a little too much traffic there. That's why I always disable the internal screen, making a nice little desktop setup just like this. And we're going to go up to 1440p. That's what this monitor does. I think 1440p, 144 hertz. So now we've got everything ready to go. As you can see, we've got that Ryzen 7 8840U, 8 cores, 16 threads, 32 gigs of DDR5 or LPDDR5X at 7500 megahertz. We can still use the built-in Radeon 780MI GPU, but we've got a lot more power here with this Radeon RX 7600MXT. And we've also got that turbo boost button up front on the eGPU. Without it, it runs at about 85 watts. With it enabled, we can just turn it on, got a little lightning bolt there. This will do up to 120 watts, allowing the GPU to boost up a bit higher. I've been doing a lot of testing on this handheld with the iGPU, and I've run some benchmarks. I just wanted to give you a look at one real quick, just to show you the difference. On the built-in Radeon 780M iGPU, we got a pretty decent score here for integrated graphics, 3,429. But I also ran this same benchmark with the OneXGPU connected, and now we're scoring around 9,703. So we significantly upgraded that GPU performance, but these are synthetics, and usually when we're taking a look at this, it does perform a little better in synthetics than it does in real-world performance because we're using USB 4. But either way, I think we'll see a nice little uplift in gaming performance with this thing connected. And the first game we have here is Palworld. I was going to mention it a bit earlier, but there are games out there that just don't play well with eGPUs, at least USB eGPUs like Thunderbolt 3, Thunderbolt 4, and USB 4. I personally really haven't run into an issue with Oculink and games, but this seems to be one of those games that just doesn't do very well with these eGPUs. We're at 1080p high settings, and every once in a while we will see it dip really close to going under 60. I mean, it's given us more than the iGPU will with this game and a higher resolution, but I really expected more out of this. Here's Spider-Man Miles Morales, and when this game first released, you would have a hard time running this at 30 FPS on an eGPU, but I think the developers have really fixed this up. Right now we're at very high settings, 1080p, getting an average of around 82 FPS with this one. So I really do hope that Horizon Forbidden West gets these same kind of fixes here. I don't know exactly what they did, but it gives me hope. Here's Cyberpunk 2077 Ultra 1080p with no FSR, looking at around 81 FPS on average, and of course with some FSR we can actually get this to run much higher, but I just really wanted to see what it would do at Ultra and a true 1080p resolution. Looking pretty good here, and you know, the difference between, let's say, USB 4 on the same exact eGPU and Oculink is with a game like this, we could go up to 1440p high settings and see the same kind of frame rate we're getting out of it right now over USB 4 at 1080. I just plugged this into my game capture to make it a little easier on me. Fallout 4 recently got a new update on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Looking pretty decent here, and I knew we'd be able to run this at 1440p ultra settings here, even though we're working with an eGPU. This game was released almost 9 years ago at the time of making this video, so I thought we'd see some good performance. Next on the list, we've got Shadow of the Tomb Raider, just using that built-in benchmark. High settings, 1080p, and yeah, I mean, it's just not as much as I thought we'd be getting. By the end of this, we had an average of 114 FPS. And the final one I wanted to run here was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. We're at high settings, 1080p, and I disabled FSR, so we are at a true 1080. You can see we're at 100% resolution scale, average of 98, and a low of 83. So this is really playable on a setup like this with an eGPU. When I first heard about the 8840U powered OneXplayer 2 Pro, I was really hoping they would have added Oculink, but unfortunately they didn't. Now, it would have made sense to kind of sell this along with their eGPU, and that way we knew we'd be getting some really great performance out of that 7600 MXT. Over USB 4, it is lacking quite a bit of what you could get out of it using Oculink, but it's still much more powerful than the built-in iGPU here. If you're interested in learning a little more about the OneXplayer 2 Pro with that AMD Ryzen 7 8840U, I'll leave a link to their website in the description. You can also check out my first look video, but my full review will be coming up in about 3 days. I definitely needed to spend more time with this. I've done a lot of testing. We're going to do a teardown. Already got some eGPU testing out of the way with this one. But if there's anything else you want to see in the full review video, just let me know in the comments below. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Like always, thanks for watching.